cannot really immobilize it. Now for the Vikings, Randall Cunningham will be the punter because Mitch Berger is probable right now with a hip injury. You know, it's another homecoming for Tony Dungy. He grew up outside of Detroit, so he bought a lot of Lion tickets last week. He's doing the same thing in the Metrodome. He's got a lot of fan support cheering him on his way to work this morning. This is video of the team getting ready to head into the Metrodome. And after watching the Vikings come back against Chicago last week with less than a minute left, Dungy's got a lot on his mind.
Well, the big thing, we just have to get off to a good start, not make the early mistakes that put us in the hole. If we can just play our game in the first and second quarter, I think we're going to be in great shape.
We'll be looking at two defenses designed by Tony Dungy. Should be the strongest case yet for fewest mistakes wins.
I think it will be. There'll be both defenses trying to force turnovers, trying to get the other team behind and then turn up the heat in the pass rush, and we can't allow that to happen. We've got to run the football and try to stay ahead of these guys.
Will we see Eric Rett on kickoff return?
We've got a chance to. We're going to look at Eric and Riddell back there. There's still a chance that Carl Williams is going to play. That'll be a decision we'll make shortly.
Warrick Dunn racked up 130 yards against Detroit. He's the first Buck runner to push that 100-yard mark since Reggie Brooks did it against Denver last season, and almost all of it was up the middle. Now, in the first half, Dunn averaged 7.7 yards a carry and easily won the NFC Player of the Week award, and this painting that goes along with it. The painting is from a show hosted by Ronnie Locke called Hardcore, and Dunn, I got to be honest with you, didn't really like the painting. It doesn't even look like him. He pretended to torch it before coming out with the polite thing to say.
Well, I'm happy to have the honor, but the credit just goes to offensive line and wide receivers and fullbacks. If those guys wouldn't have provided holes and blocking for me, I wouldn't have definitely got this award. I got the yards in the game.
I think something like this will make him a marked man now?
He won't be able to sneak up on people, but even before he had the big day, you could see it on film, and you know, he's had several runs where he's been close, and I know defensive coaches understand that, so I don't think he'll be the type now that'll be able to go in and people don't know he's in the game.
Now, Warrick is our feature in our Behind the Mask segment. You'll see that in about 10 minutes. But, Frank, you know he'll take a wall full of those if he can run like that again in Minnesota this afternoon.
Be nice. Their defense is very tough, although they give up a lot of yards. You know, the thing about Minnesota that's interesting to me is I've never thought of them as being explosive on offense, but they got a couple of great wide receivers. Yeah. They're leading the NFC in total offense, averaging better than 381 yards a game. Surprisingly, the Vikings are next to last in total defense, giving up 365. But as we go between the lines, the Bucs remind us that stats can be misleading.
After piling up 173 yards on the ground against the Detroit Lions, you would think the Bucs are anxious to test the running game against Minnesota. After all, the Vikings have given up an average of 147 yards rushing in their first two games. A stat the Bucs say is inflated because of a few big plays.
By far, this is the best defense we've played. They look as good as ever, and they're going to be hard to run the football against. But if we execute, if we do what we're supposed to do, we'll be able to have success doing it.
Much of the Vikings' success on defense hinges on their ability to force turnovers. In fact, during the Dennis Green era, Minnesota has led the league in interceptions and takeaways.
What they do that really sticks out at just make turnovers. You know, we, you know, causing fumbles, returning, you know, interceptions, and getting points out of them.
So far, of course, the Bucs haven't given opposing defenses much of a chance to score. No interceptions and just 2 fumbles in 2 games.
I don't think you go into games trying not to make mistakes. As soon as you do that, that's when you get into trouble. Tony says it very good. We want to play physically relaxed but mentally sharp. And when you're physically relaxed, you tend to make less mistakes, and then that's how we're trying to approach things.
The defensive approach has to respect the Viking running game and the NFC's leading rusher, Robert Smith. At the same time, quarterback Brad Johnson has already thrown for 4 touchdowns, while completing better than 67% of his passes.
He stepped in there and he's done a super job. The guy's got poise, he's been putting the ball on the money. You know, it helps to have 2 big play wide receivers in Jake Reed and Cris Carter. So they take a little pressure off of him, but the guys really stepped in there and played well.
Of course, the most interesting subplot to this matchup is that of Tony Dungy versus Dennis Green. While the friendship remains, Dungy would love to ruin his former boss's home opener.
I don't know that for a fact, but I know there's 2 undefeated in the NFC, and there'll only be 1 at the end of the game. So hopefully we're still standing.
Whether they are or not, you can be sure Dungy's demeanor won't change. More importantly, he won't allow his team to put too much stock in a win or a loss.
Isn't that interesting that after the win last week against the Lions, you're 2-0, and given the history of this franchise, you might figure the fans are exuberant. You might figure the players would be too, but Tony Dungy will not allow that to happen.
No.
Celebrate for the moment and then move on.
Keep them on an even keel. Plus, you got Minnesota's home opener record is 10-0.
Isn't that?
So, yeah, I mean,
it's scary.
That's a little bit of a word of warning right there. All right, just ahead, coming up on Buck Sunday, Brad Johnson never really got a chance to show his skills at FSU, but he's in total control at Minnesota. We'll give you a profile. And Rich McKay joins me live from the sidelines in the Metrodome, and he'll be talking about Dunn, Dilfer defense, and Dungy versus Denny. That's a lot of D's next. You're looking at a live picture from inside the Metrodome up in Minneapolis. It is, of course, the Bucs and Vikings today at 1 o'clock. And did you know the Bucs and Vikings are drawing from the same talent pool? Well, they are. Amazingly, 27 players from Florida State have battled it out in this series since 1976. 5 of those will be on the field today, including a guy that Kevin O'Donnell tells us never started a full season at FSU.
During his career at Florida State, Brad Johnson actually made a bigger name for himself on the basketball court than the football field. Johnson didn't even start a game for Bobby Bowden until his junior year and lost that starting job just 6 games later to Casey Weldon. He actually would never again start another game at Florida State. So it wasn't surprising when the NFL draft came around that Johnson wasn't sitting in front of his television set looking for his name to be called. Actually, he was on campus trying to land a teaching job. But 6 years later, Johnson is one of the hottest new quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's got the stats and salary to prove it. After finishing last year as the 3rd highest-rated quarterback, the Vikings handed over control along with a new 4-year, $15.5 million contract. Right now, Johnson is the NFC's 2nd-rated passer, throwing for 503 yards and 4 touchdowns in just 2 games. And when he hits the field today, he hopes everyone in Tallahassee is watching.
Well, this might be the first time they've seen me play in a long time, because they sure didn't get to see me play very much in college. And so, you know, it's kind of good for me to go back home. And I have a lot of friends down there, but not really many people have seen me play football. So maybe from that aspect, it'll be a lot of fun.
Well, personally, his friends may be pulling for him, but we all know professionally he's playing for the wrong team. For Buck Sunday, Kevin O'Donnell, Fox 13 Sports.
All right, joining us live from Minnesota, where unfortunately it's not snowing because he always likes to get a little ice fishing in, is Buck GM Rich McKay. Rich, how you doing this afternoon?
Good. I'm doing good, Chip. How about you?
Not bad. You know, it's a battle of unbeatens at 1 o'clock today. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
Well, it does, given where we started this season, knowing we had to play San Francisco at home and then go to Detroit. We knew that the hard part of the schedule was going to come in those first 4 weeks, and it's nice that we got out of those first 2-2-0.
Now, obviously, the Vikings are aware of what Warrick Dunn did last week against Detroit, and will be stacking a lot of bodies on the line. Talk about that a little bit, Rich.
Well, a little of that's going to fall to Trent. You know, we're going to need to get the ball downfield. If they're going to bring 8 guys at the line of scrimmage like they did to us last year, then we're going to have to get the ball downfield, and the line's going to have to do a good job of at least giving enough time to accomplish that. The other thing we're going to have to do is get the ball in Mike Alstott's hands. I mean, last week we didn't get Mike as many carries as we'd like. I think this week we will, and I think we'll try to pound it a little bit.
Talk a little bit about Dilfer, because what he's doing this season compared to the first 2 games versus last season, he's not losing the ball game for you.
Well, where Trent is basically where he ended last year, which is he's being a very efficient passer. He's being very safe with the ball. He's being very protective of the ball, which is what we want. And he's making the plays when it's necessary. The one thing Trent's not getting enough credit for is the plays he's made on 3rd down, which obviously are the most important plays we have in a series. So Trent's done a nice job. He's picked up right where he left off last year. And we think by mid-season, Trent will be making more plays that will help us as opposed to just protecting the ball.
Yeah, and Trent was saying earlier to me this week in the locker room that actually those 3rd down conversions is the toughest thing a quarterback has to do in the NFL.
Well, no question, because that's the down where there's the most risk. In other words, it's not just that if you don't convert, you've got to punt the ball, but it's that the defenses are most opportunistic on 3rd down. They're trying to make an interception. They're trying to make a sack. So it really falls to the quarterback to make the play on 3rd down.
Rich, let's talk defense a little bit, because the Bucs defense went 6 straight quarters without allowing a touchdown, and they've held 11 of their last 13 opponents to under 20 points a game.
Yeah, it really played good defense. You know, we expected coming into the season we would play good defense. It all starts up front. I think Warren has done a nice job. I think we've done a nice job on the front. I think the linebackers have also helped us tremendously. But we expected to play good defense. We should play good defense, and well, I think we'll continue that today.
There are injuries on that defensive line, especially to Warren Sapp. 2 questions. How healthy is the ankle, and how much of a problem is that broken pinky?
Well, the pinky shouldn't be that big a problem, I don't think. The ankle is more of a problem in the sense that he hasn't really practiced since the injury. So we'll have to see how he comes out today. He says he's ready to go, and I expect him to be so.
He's taking on an all-pro, obviously, too, Randall McDaniel.
Yeah, well, it depends on which side we line him up on. We might sneak him over to the other side a little bit, but McDaniel's a pretty good player.
There you go. All right, Dungy's back in Minnesota after working for 4 years for Denny Green. Plus, he also played football as a Golden Gopher. We kind of touched on it, but it's a little bit of a homecoming for him.
Yeah, not many people admit that they played for the Golden Gophers. Tony does. You know, it's not always nice for him to come back here. I mean, obviously, got a lot of fans. I don't like getting off the bus with him because everybody's got to come up and hug him. But otherwise, it's nice for him to be back here. He's obviously a very popular guy here. He was a good quarterback here.
Rich, talk a little bit about Brad Johnson, because really he's been groomed the right way for the job, because he was able to learn from the sidelines first.
Very unusual today, Chip, in the National Football League that a quarterback could do what Brad Johnson did, which is have basically 5 years of sitting on the sidelines and learning to be a quarterback. Traditionally, you can't do that because you're either forced into playing or your coach, there's a coach change or something happens that doesn't allow you that time. For Brad, it just worked out very well. He was in the right place at the right time, and obviously he's performing.
Take a look at the standings in the NFC Central right now, Rich, and really I don't think it's a stretch to say that this game is for control of the division when you look how everybody is stacking up.
Don't ever forget the Green Bay Packers, though, Chip. They're a pretty good football team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy with where we are because we feel like the schedule gets better for us down the road, obviously. So, you know, we couldn't be any happier to be here. I think the Vikings are not a surprise team to me. I think they are a little surprise team to other people. But you got to remember, on offense, when you have Cris Carter and you have Jake Reed, I want to know who has a better pair of receivers. Those guys are big play guys. They make a lot of first downs. They make a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, Carter leads the NFC, and Reed obviously exploded last week against Chicago. But do you think the schedule the first 8 weeks of the season kind of favors you guys, Rich? After this, you've got the next 2 at home, Miami and Arizona, and the Dolphin game is a sellout already. Yeah, it is a sellout, which is nice. I don't know, the first 4 games were a little tough. You know, everybody kept saying, the so-called experts said if we could get out of them 2-2, we'd be doing great. I do think that the 4 games after that help us because, you know, we're back home. We'll see. We'll see. We're happy with one thing, and that is that we got off to the start we knew we had to do if we were going to be competitive going down the stretch. Because really all this team needed was just to get a few wins under the belt. I mean, winning is a habit just like losing is a habit. It's confidence, Chip. When you've been in the situation we've been in with the lack of stability, the lack of winning, the enormous turnover it seems like we've had as a franchise, when you start to win, you're right, you can form a habit. That's what we've got to do. You know, winning last week in the Dome on the road was big for us from a confidence standpoint. All right, thanks a lot, Rich. Good luck this afternoon. Happy to do it, Chip. You got it. Okay. Next up on Buck Sunday, Warrick Dunn likes his privacy, but he sat down for a one-on-one with us. It takes you behind the mask next. And we'll hear what Denny Green is saying about the Bucs just ahead on Buck Sunday. All right, our Buck Sunday cameras put you live on the sideline in the Metrodome. Head coach Tony Dungy talking with one of the Viking assistants. He's probably kind of going over some old times before they become enemies, at least for 3 hours at 1 o'clock this afternoon. You know, football is a numbers game. If you look at a board inside the Bucs locker room, it all comes down to winning in terms of percentages. And right now, both the offense and defense are doing what they need to be doing to, 1, protect the football, and 2, get someone to turn it over. If you go back to the last season's final 6 games, the Bucs have maintained a positive 13-17 giveaway takeaway ratio. And not surprisingly, the team's record is 6-2 in that stretch. A graphic example of that, take a look at the Panther game. 4 turnovers turned that game into a disaster. But when the team is even or even +1 or -1, they're winning. Now, take a look at this. Trent Dilfer's stats in the first 2 games in '96 compared to his first 2 games in '97. And they opened the season last year against Green Bay and Detroit, which is just about the same as opening against San Francisco and Detroit this season. And look at the numbers. 6 interceptions in his first 2 games of '96. He hasn't thrown one yet this year, even in preseason. And he has 2 touchdowns. Right now, Dilfer is rated as the 3rd best QB in the conference. He's completing more passes for more yards per play. Defensively, the Bucs are controlling games. They've held 11 of the last 13 opponents to under 20 points. And the two teams that scored more than 20 were Carolina with 24 last season, and the Vikings, of course, last year with 21 points. Warrick Dunn had 24 carries last week against Detroit. After the game in the locker room, we were talking to him, and he told us he didn't know how many carries he had, but he sure knew he played a lot. Now, when I sat down with him this week, Dunn told me he is not one of those running backs that needs a lot of carries to get into the feel of a game. As we go behind the mask with Warrick, he says he has the same thought every time he touches the football.
My first carry, I want to take it to the house. And I think every time I touch the football, that's my goal. And I don't expect to lose yardage, but to gain yardage. So I was happy with the carries that I got, but I know that's not going to happen every game. And I just have to take advantage of the carries that I do get in the future.
A lot of those carries, obviously, are right up the middle. There's a lot of beef in there. What's it like running up inside like that?
The holes are inside. And the plays aren't designed to go inside, but that's where the holes are in. And I'm just doing my part of the deal, is reading the defense and running to daylight.
Now, obviously, the Vikings are a team that have had a lot of problems stopping the running game the first 2 weeks of the season. You're going to go in there with a target on your back, aren't you?
I can't go out and expect to do the things I did last week. My number probably won't be called as much, but hopefully have some type of impact in the game that'll spark the team, start some momentum, or definitely do some positive things. So hopefully I can just go out and just play well and poised.
Now, you're sitting here and you softly answered questions in terms of your own personality. You like to kind of keep things close to the vest, but what's the change from this quietness to the guy who can run the football like that out on the field? There's got to be a difference.
Well, I guess once I get into the football game and definitely get more involved, I wouldn't say that I'm vocal, but my expectations probably go up, and I probably want to do more for the football team. So you're right, I'm a different person on and off the field, and I'm a different person in the media and when I'm just in society. So it's just the way that I carry myself.
So in other words, you're sitting here telling me that after you get out of that seat, you'll probably go into the locker room and play a lot of practical jokes?
Well, I wouldn't say that, but I do like to have fun and joke around and laugh.
You know, for someone as soft-spoken as you are, would you be surprised, or do you think people would be surprised at the kind of drive you've got inside you? I mean, do you hate to lose at anything? Can we play cards, tennis, golf? It doesn't matter?
Well, let's just say I don't want to lose at anything, and I hate to lose, and I don't expect to start losing anytime soon.
You know, we talk about the size, obviously, but it's not as if you grew out and were always 5'8". The size has always had to have been a factor no matter what game you played.
Well, that's just, I guess, a topic that's always been there, but I guess now they're starting to be surprised that, well, this little guy, in a sense, could do so many things on a football field. And that's just confidence and poise that I have, and God has just given me the ability, and he's put me in the right places and positions to do those things.
Oh, yeah. All right, just ahead on Buck Sunday, you'll never guess who the biggest Vikings fan is in Tampa Bay. He's got a familiar last name. We're about an hour away from kickoff. You're looking live inside the Metrodome in Minneapolis as Michael Alstott starts to warm the leg up a little bit, and hopefully it'll be just kicking extra points. No field goals this afternoon against the Vikings. Minnesota, of course, is coming off a big win over Chicago in Chicago, and Brad Johnson put on a clinic in the last minute of this game. No timeouts. Johnson pushes the Vikings up the field and hits Cris with 40 seconds left, stunning Chicago 27-24. Now, Denny Green knows the Bucs' defense is better than Chicago's, but is he surprised this team is 2-0?
Not really. I mean, I think that it was clear the 49ers are having, you know, not the type of year they have, and that Tampa Bay is considerably better. They've got probably over 15 #1 draft picks on their football team, and I think it took a guy like Tony to be able to put them together and give them the kind of confidence that they have right now. I think they were playing better than Detroit last year at the end of the year, and so I'm not surprised that either one of us are 2-0 right now.
As far as Tony Dungy, his defense that he ran here in Minnesota is the same one that he runs in Tampa Bay, so we feel like we understand what he's trying to accomplish, but on the same hand, he understands the offense better than anyone else in the league, so it's kind of a chess match, and the big thing is, again, to stay away from penalties and turnovers and don't give them a short field to work on.
See, Tony Dungy is a focal point, although this is the Vikings' home opener, but it's also a homecoming for Tony Dungy. He will have fans in the stands after 4 years as the defensive coordinator for Minnesota, and he played college ball and coached at the University of Minnesota. He still has a lot of support in the Twin Cities, but the biggest Viking fan eats every meal at home with him. His son pulls for the purple.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends up there, and I have a lot of people that are pulling for me, but I think they're, for the most part, they're Viking fans. I know my son is, so, you know, he's rooting for the Vikings.
You got a week to work on, or a few days to work on.
We've tried, but Cris Carter and Jake Reed are his buddies, so he's rooting for them.
Oh, man, his own son, a Viking fan, although probably deep in there somewhere, he still wants his dad to win, Frank. You would hope. I mean, come on.
It goes either way. It's going to be rough at home.
I know. Let's put the purple shirt and the red pants on or something. Do one. But the Bucs face a hot running back, actually, for the second week in a row. Robert Smith, he's averaging over 8 yards a carry. But I think the real key in this game is pressure. You got to pressure Brad Johnson. You cannot let him set up and start pulling the trigger to Jake Reed or Cris Carter. Carter leads the NFC in receiving, and last week Reed exploded for 12 catches against Chicago, so obviously John Lynch and company could have a busy afternoon back there.
Their work is cut out for them.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the Bucs have done an excellent job of holding on to the football so far this season. Tampa Bay fumbled twice against the 49ers and came away unscathed. Trent Dilfer, meanwhile, has not thrown an interception yet. Let's keep it that way. The Vikings, after all, thrive on the other team's mistakes and frequently turn those errors into points. Done twice so far this season.
They've got 6 turnovers the Viking defense has in the first 2 ball games. And you know that, I mean, the way Dilfer's been last season to this season, that's got to be a concern going in.
You know, but it's interesting what he says. We don't play not to make errors.
Right,
we don't play ultra safe. We try to go in mentally focused but physically relaxed. So you're not tight and make those mistakes.
Oh, if they could roll off of this one 3-0, talk about the momentum.
This
All
place
right.
will go crazy.
Yeah, that's a look at Bucs Sunday coming up next. We're rolling right into Fox's NFL Sunday out in Hollywood with James Brown and company. We've got the Bucs and Vikings at 1, and then at 4 o'clock it's the Saints out in San Francisco to sit back, get ready for some football. We'll see you back here next week on Bucs Sunday.
Only unbeaten is fighting for tops in the Central. Tampa's alive in 3D with Dunn, Dilfer, and Dungy's devastating D. Where the purple people have nothing to fear. Cris and Jake are in the clear.
Going head-to-head at Washington. Hold you something. You're talking about Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay will be traveling up to the Metrodome today. They've lost 12. Let's see, they've only played 15. The last 15 years, they've lost 12 times up there, but I'm telling you, it's a different story. Let me start with...
We're just saying hello.
Tampa Bay, man.
Come on, man. You'll get your chance.
And we will talk about that game and others in just a bit. But first, here's a look at what's happening around the NFL.
Central standings, they'll find the only undefeated teams in the conference, the Vikings and the Buccaneers. Now looking to spoil Minnesota's home debut today, their former defensive coordinator, Tony Dungy, who spoke with Tim Green.
Tony, when Dennis Green came to Minnesota, he brought you here and really helped develop you as a head coach. How does it feel today to be going up against your old mentor when the two of you have the only undefeated teams in the NFC?
Well, Tim, it's a great feeling. It's something you always dream about. Denny really helped my career a lot and was instrumental in getting me down to Tampa. Now we're coming back playing them for first place. It's like a dream come true.
And, JB, the only time the Buccaneers started 3-0 was back in 1979, and they advanced to the NFC Championship game. Back to you in Hollywood.
Anyway, but Tampa Bay 2-0. What are the key ingredients for their success?
I think the key ingredients, you can point to Warren Sapp, the emergence of him as a star in the NFL, prototype defensive tackle, much like a Cortez Kennedy or Chester McLaughlin. And everyone knows about Hardy Nickerson, what a great linebacker he is. Brooks is fast emerging as a star himself. They're going to have their hands full this week. You know, Robert Brooks or Robert Smith, 8.8 yards a carry. Johnson is the number 2 rated quarterback in the NFL. Carter leads the NFL in reception. He has killed these guys before. They have to find a way to stop Carter. Warren Sapp, Randall McDaniel, a great matchup today.
That is a great matchup, but when you look at this football team, you got to look at Warrick Dunn. This kid has played awesome. And I talked to Marcus Allen. I said, what is this guy like? He says, well, he's like an amoeba. I said, amoeba? He goes, yeah, amoeba, because you can get small, you can get big, you can get large. And when you get into the hole, you're able to make things happen. And that's what this kid's been able to do. Marcus Allen also said, can he do it for 16 games? He only did it for, I guess, 10 games, but he wants to see if he can do it for 16 games. So look for this guy to lead this football team. I like him a lot.
Smallest running back in the NFL.
Amoebas. Anytime I hear the word amoeba, I automatically want to go get a shot. You know what I mean? But you look at Tony Dungy, you look at the last 15 years that Tampa Bay has played up at the Metrodome, they have lost 12 of those. This is not the old Tampa Bay team anymore. New colors, a new quarterback that's not turning the ball over, a Warrick Dunn that's exciting. And then you have Warren Sapp at right tackle, and you said defensive tackle over McDaniel left guard. But in passing situations today, Sapp moves over to left tackle over right guard Scott Deal, who's a journeyman tackle playing guard for Minnesota. This is a football game today. Watch for Reed and watch for Carter. Carter goes in motion, but Reed will be bumped all day long and put a lot of pressure on Carter. This one, Tampa Bay wins, goes home 3-0. Mark it down. You heard it right here.
You've had a case of amoeba before, huh?
Got a shot for it, though, bud.
Yeah, I understand. I'm glad you did.
He spent 4 years as defensive coordinator with the Vikings, and Tim Tony told us yesterday, this is the type of game you dream about when you leave one team for another.
And it's a nice story, a success story about two old friends, because when Dennis Green got the job here in Minnesota, he immediately hired Tony Dungy, who was an assistant at Kansas City, to become his defensive coordinator. Dungy then implemented an aggressive and innovative defense. Dennis Green not only let him do his thing, he coached him up, brought him along as a head coach, and ultimately was his advocate when Tony got the job ultimately with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When we talked to Dennis Green yesterday, he gave us a wonderful analogy about going fishing with someone or playing golf with someone. He said, you still want to catch the biggest fish, you still want to win the match, but it's a lot more fun when it's against an old friend.
And both coaches told us that running the football will be the key, and a couple of young, exciting running backs on one side, Robert Smith, who leads the NFC. On the other side, the offensive player of the week in Warrick Dunn.
Yeah, Warrick Dunn was offensive player of the week, where he looked as good as Barry Sanders when Barry Sanders is at his best. And Robert Smith is a big back with deceptive speed. Now, those two running backs have forced both defenses to really focus on stopping the run. That means they'll put their safety up towards the line of scrimmage in an 8-man front. That, I think, is going to shift the focus of this game to the quarterbacks, their efficiency at finding their wide receivers on the perimeter. Brad Johnson has the edge with receivers in Cris Carter and Jake Reed. Trent Dilfer is going to have to keep his poise in a very noisy, hostile environment.
Well, the crowd is ready, and we are ready. The undefeated Vikings and the undefeated Buccaneers. We'll have the opening kickoff when we return. Welcome back to the Metrodome. The Minnesota Vikings have won their last 10 home openers. Vikings 2-0. A pair of victories on the road in Buffalo and Chicago, while Tony Dungy and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeated the San Francisco 49ers 2 weeks ago. Detroit last week. Rookie Warrick Dunn out of Florida State. Back deep.
They're lining up for an onside kick formation.
And that is Greg Davis, who had trouble on kickoffs last week. He will kick it off for the Vikings.
You think the onside kick?
Yes, it is for the conventional kickoff. And here's Dunn from the 11 to the 25-yard line. So another short kickoff by Davis. Good coverage by the Vikings. A return of 14 yards. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to the offense. Well, a flag thrown. Flag thrown during the kickoff, and it is against Minnesota.
And that wouldn't surprise you. When they faked the onside kick, I don't think Davis was even the guy to kick that ball off. They faked the onside kick to draw the defense.
Kicking team on the kickoff, 5-yard penalty, free kick.
It was Chris Walsh who approached the football, and then Davis came up for the kick. Mitch Berger is the usual kickoff man, but he's been injured, so this time it's Davis.
Yep. They lined up to the left of the formation as we saw it, and then they kicked it back to the right. Here it is. Here's the formation here, and this formation is an onside kick. That draws Tampa Bay to this side. Davis comes up, fakes the kick, and someone else kicks it off to an area where no one else was. See, there's the fake, and now here's the kick. Unconventional is right, and now the Vikings have put themselves back 5 yards, and Greg Davis has had trouble with his kickoff. All right, now here's what they're doing. They're faking the onside with Chris Walsh. And then Davis is the guy making the kick.
And this time, the Vikings stay onside. And another short Kickoff by Davis. Dunn out across the 35 to the 36-yard line. Return of 25 yards by Warrick Dunn. So now the Buccaneers to the offense, led by Trent Dilfer in his 4th season out of Fresno State. Dilfer has not thrown an interception over the first 2 games. He's completed 54% of his passes. The men protecting Trent Dilfer. Dunn and Alstott in the backfield. Copeland and Riddell Anthony starting in place of the injured Carl Williams. 1st and 10 from the 36. And Dunn is hit for a loss. Jeff Brady, the first man in, along with Ed McDaniel. So Warrick Dunn, the NFC Offensive Player of the Week, loses 2 on 1st down as we check out the Vikings defensively. Alexander with the All-Pro Randall, Fisk, and Fernando Smith. McDaniel, Brady, and Edwards, the linebacking core. Washington and Fuller on the corners. Thomas and Griffith are the safeties. 2nd down and 12 following the 2-yard loss. The fullback, Mike Alstott, back to the original line of scrimmage, +1, so it'll be 3rd down and 9.
The Minnesota Vikings defense is built for speed. It's like a Greyhound defense. They're lean and they're fast, and they're meant to make aggressive plays on 1st down, as they did in this series here. Put the other team into a known passing situation where they can focus on that aggressive, fast pass rush. There's Coach Fazio, the defensive coordinator. He's the guy who gambles. He's the guy who takes those high-risk shots, the aggressive blitzing defenses that we saw on 1st down.
3rd and 9. Here comes the blitz. Dilfer over the top, and he has a receiver out at midfield. It's Riddell Anthony, the rookie out of Florida, for a Buccaneers 1st down.
This is not what the Vikings wanted to do. What they wanted to do was get immediate pressure on Trent Dilfer and force Dilfer to throw this ball sooner. Whenever you see the receiver breaking to the center of the field, as Riddell Anthony does on this play here, you know that the quarterback has had an inordinate amount of time to hold that ball and find him in the middle.
Buccaneers in Vikings territory. Here's Dunn to the 45, before he was upended by Orlando Thomas.
It was interesting talking to Mike Shula, the offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay yesterday, and he said, I know that the Vikings are going to bring Robert Griffith, the strong safety, up into the formation, put 8 men against my 7 blockers, but I believe that we can still run the ball. I believe Warrick Dunn, there's Mike Shula, Warrick Dunn can make that 8th man miss. Mike Alstott can run that 8th man over.
Gain of 3 by Dunn. Horace Copeland in motion, 2nd and 7. Dilfer over the top. So Trent Dilfer has completed his first 2 passes. This one to the tight end, Jackie Harris.
Kenny, this is what I'm talking about. When I talk about 8 men up, you see the numbers 1 through 8 here. There are only 7 blockers here. Here's the running back. So Mike Shula believes that in an isolation with this 8th man, his running backs can win that match.
So now 3rd down and 4. Passing situation for the Buccaneers. That one intended for Horace Copeland.
That's not poised. I mean, that's what Trent Dilfer knew coming into this game he had to do. He knew that he had to settle down and make those 3rd down conversions when the opportunities presented themselves, and on that play, it presented itself. Horace Copeland was wide open in that crossing route.
David Palmer back deep for the Vikings. Tommy Barnhart will punt it away for the Buccaneers from his own 45-yard line. Palmer signals for the fair catch inside the 10. So the Vikings will start out from their own 9-yard line when we return to the Metrodome in Minneapolis. Back in inside the Metrodome. Vikings to the offense for the first time, led by quarterback Brad Johnson. Minnesota's offense ranked 4th in the National Football League over the first 2 weeks. And the kick out to Cris to the 15-yard line. His first catch of the day, Anthony Parker made the tackle.
That's a battle we're going to see all day, Kenny.
Brad Johnson, 7-3 as a starter over the last 2 seasons. Last week, career highs in completions and yards. Randall McDaniel, the 8-time All-Pro. Scott Dill for the injured David Dixon. Smith and Evans in the backfield. 2nd down and 3. And Johnson now 2 for 2 as the catch is made by Jake Reed. Donnie Abraham made the stop. So a first down following the 12-yard pass play from Johnson to Reed. Tampa Bay, terrific defensively over the first 2 weeks. Warren Sapp, one of the up-and-coming stars of the NFL. Marty Nickerson, 2-time Pro Bowler. Parker and Abraham on the corners. Johnson and Lynch are the Buccaneers safeties. First down. And the handoff goes to Robert Smith. Big gain on across the 40 to the 45-yard line. A pickup of 18 yards.
Tampa Bay's defense has been good against the run, but you're going to see a hole open up here for Robert Smith. And a nice block by Charles Evans, the fullback. A nice block on the strong safety by the backside tackle, Todd Stussy. When you give Robert Smith an opening, as I said in the open of this game, he is deceptive in his speed.
And this is Leroy Horde to the outside. Vikings told us yesterday they hope to get Horde more carries this week.
Right, but what they want Leroy Horde to do is send that thing right up the middle. That's where Leroy Horde is at his strongest. He is a big, powerful man. He is most effective when he runs between the tackles. He's the kind of guy he'll get hit and he'll almost always get a couple yards after that initial hit. He doesn't want to do what he did on that last play, which is start to take it to the outside where this fast Tampa Bay defense can match him with their speed.
3 wide receivers on 2nd down and 9. Johnson fires and a catch is made by Reed inside the Tampa Bay 40.
Well, Jake Reed and Anthony Parker know each other because they've been teammates before, and you're going to see here total confidence in Brad Johnson in his receiver, Jake Reed. The coverage is there. Parker is not too far over the top, but Brad Johnson just has great confidence in Jake Reed and Cris Carter on the other side. They are going to open up the run game by forcing Tampa Bay to account for the pass.
16 yards on the previous play as Johnson dumps it off to Horde, escapes the first tackle. Finally pulled down at the 34. Reagan Upshaw made the stop after the 5-yard pickup.
Right now, the Minnesota Vikings are playing with the mind of the Tampa Bay defense collectively, because you're seeing the pass game to open up the run. You're slowing down the blitz and the pass rush now with a screen play. Look, turn these guys loose, let them come on a pass play, think they're getting to the quarterback, and then we dump it off to a screen on Leroy Horde. There you see Culpepper at the bottom of the screen. He's being taken off the field right now. Culpepper, a scrappy, feisty guy, a lot of experience on the inside, kind of the anchor of that front four on the defense of Tampa Bay.
Culpepper replaced by Marcus Jones. And flags thrown.
False start. Number 87 offense prior to the snap. 5-yard penalty. Still 2nd down.
Hunter Goodwin, the young tight end. And those are the kind of mistakes that young players make that cause coaches to grind their teeth at night. Because you realize whenever you put a young player into your lineup, the chances are they're going to make those little mistakes. They end up being costly because now the Vikings are in 2nd 10, which is a much more pass-oriented situation for them to be in.
Johnson has completed his first 4 pass attempts. The Vikings keep it on the ground with Smith down to the 35-yard line before he was knocked up by Rufus Porter, a gain of 4 yards for Smith.
When you're in 2nd and 10, what you can do is you can afford to take this man here, your strong safety, and you put him into coverage. Now the Vikings mix it up here and they do run the ball, but again, it's a passing situation. They've got 10 yards to go and only 2 downs to do it in, so Tampa Bay can afford to leave Lynch back in the defensive backfield.
3rd down and 6. Pass intended for Cris Carter. Coverage on the play from Reggie Rusk. First incomplete pass thrown by Johnson.
Tony Dungy yesterday said that he was willing to let Brad Johnson throw those underneath passes. He said, I will let Brad Johnson try to beat me by completing those passes. I'm going to make them work their way down the field. Sooner or later, we'll stop them.
Mitch Berger, who has missed the last 5 weeks with a hip injury, and Carl Williams, who is also not 100%, calls for the fair catch inside the 10, 26 yards by Berger, as he pins the Buccaneers deep in their own territory. Minneapolis, where the 2-0 Buccaneers and the 2-0 Vikings are scoreless. 6.5 minutes remaining. First quarter. 1st and 10 for Trent Dilfer and the Bucs from their own 10-yard line. Dilfer back to throw, swings it out. The catch is made by Dunn, spins away from Robert Griffith, and then is upended by Fernando Smith. A gain of just 1 yard, and right now for this McDonald's game break, let's head to James Brown at the Fox Television Center.
Kenny, Chicago gave the explosive Raymond Harris the starting nod today over Rashaan Salaam. Pays dividends. 4th touchdown run of the season. That's league leading. Bears on top of the Lions, 7-0 in the first. Back to Kenny Albert, Tim Green.
Bears and the Lions, the opponents for these teams last week. Tampa Bay defeating Detroit, while Minnesota defeated Chicago at Soldier Field. 2nd down and 9. Dunn, big hole. Out across the 20. 1st down, Buccaneers.
Whenever they give Warrick Dunn space, it's danger. I mean, a red light goes off in everyone's mind on the Minnesota side of the field. Watch what Warrick Dunn does. There's a very small crack right here, and he gets through it. He finds it, and then watch what happens when he gets hit. Look at this. He gets hit, and he keeps going. He picks up 3 more yards, not by running over the top of the defenders, but by running underneath the defenders. Terry Bradshaw talked about it in the pregame show. Warrick Dunn is the smallest running back in the NFL. He's a guy who uses his smallness to his advantage.
5'8", 178 pounds, Dunn again. It's almost as if he disappears into the pile and then all of a sudden reappears on the other side.
Yeah, what did Ronnie Lott call him in the pregame? He's
amoeba?
An amoeba. I mean, and that's what he's like, because you think, hey, nothing could get through that thing. You know, nothing could get through that crack. But all of a sudden, he gets through that crack like a ghost, and all of a sudden he reappears on the other side, and he's full size, and he's putting the moves on people. He is a danger to the Minnesota Vikings defense, and they know it. They're happy. He's off the field. They love it. They don't want to see him on the field.
He was dangerous last week in Detroit, 130 yards. Here's Dilfer on 2nd down. Under pressure, he escapes and slides head first into the 28-yard line. So a gain of 7.
This is still a nice job by Tampa Bay's offensive line of giving Dilfer protection. We've seen it so far today several times. You see John Randall to the side there to Dilfer's left. He's not a factor. Now, Jason Fisk finally comes around and gets some pressure on him, as does Fernando Smith. But that's as much time as you can ask for as a quarterback in the National Football League. As no one can throw to, it tells you there's good coverage downfield.
3rd down and 4. Copeland in motion. Dilfer scrambling to his right, can't find anyone, and now throws it downfield, but Harris could not make the catch inbounds. The tight end Jackie Harris ruled out of bounds, so the Buccaneers will be forced to punt.
Trent Dilfer, among other things. He's a strong arm guy. He has a buoyant personality. He's also linebacker tough. Watch the hit he takes. Now he's outside the pocket, so he's fair game. He's like a running back. Look at the hit he takes. Knocks him right flat on his back. Orlando Thomas does. Dilfer gets up like it's nothing, walks off the field. He's a big, tough quarterback.
Second punt of the afternoon for Tommy Barnhart. David Palmer backpedaling to the 21-yard line. Palmer up the middle, wrapped up by John Lynch after a short gain, 50 yards on the punt by Barnhart, and a 6-yard return for Palmer. Central. Buccaneers and the Vikings both off to 2-0 starts. Vikings made the playoffs last year for the 4th time in 5 years under Dennis Green. They start out 1st and 10 from their own 29-yard line. Play action. Johnson 4 of 5 so far. Looking downfield, and the catch is made by Jake Reed.
What a throw and what a catch. How about Brad Johnson? People wondered about this young man when he replaced Warren Moon. They can't wonder after they see this play. Watch the protection. Outstanding. Warren Sapp neutralized. Brad Johnson, plenty of time. Jake Reed going against his old teammate, putting a move on him, and then outrunning him. Outrunning Anthony Parker, outrunning Melvin Johnson, and look at the placement of that football. Wow.
56 yards. Fullback Charles Evans, flags thrown.
That was, I mean, I don't mean to go back to the last play, but I've got to. That was a long way to throw a ball and drop it into a bucket. And that's what he did. I mean, there was a target the size of a laundry bucket. And Brad Johnson dropped that ball right in there.
Well, last week in Chicago, Reed caught a career-high 12 from Johnson. And already here in this first quarter, excuse me, Tim.
Illegal use of the hands.
Receptions.
Defense, hands in the face. 5-yard penalty. First down.
Let's look at it again. You want to? Why not? Look at this. There's the move. There's where he beats Parker. But then he uses his feet not only to outrun Parker, but to outrun Melvin Johnson. Look at that placement.
Not sure Parker wants to look at it again.
I know, but it's a thing of beauty. And I played on the defensive line, and I think it's beautiful.
First and goal. Johnson looking for Carter, and he was out of bounds.
Boy, you don't see Cris Carter fail to keep his feet in bounds too often on that pass. What this pass shows is the confidence Brad Johnson has in his receivers. You saw him throw the long ball. Look at this. He just puts it up. He just says, I'm putting this thing up for grabs. It's a nice play by Donnie Abraham. He's got the body position. He's got the coverage. And he uses the sideline to help him defend on that play.
Second and goal with Charles Evans leading the way. Smith is forced back.
That's not where Robert Smith is at his best. Not running into a pile like that. That's where Leroy Horde is at his best. Robert Smith, again, he's a speed guy. He has amazing speed, and he runs like he runs big. He runs tall. So when he tries to run into traffic, he presents a large target. Look at the size of that target that he presents to the defender. He doesn't bend over the ball very much when he runs. So when he hits the middle of the line of scrimmage like that, oftentimes he's knocked back. And if he hits a seam on the edge, he can be gone.
Johnson on third down looking for Carter again.
This young man right here, Donnie Abraham, is going to be one of the best cornerbacks in the National Football League. He's playing against one of the best in Cris Carter. Watch Carter push off and use his hands. Watch it here, right here. Carter, that's an old wily trick. Watch the push. He shoves him off, but the timing is disrupted too much by Donnie Abraham's excellent body position. The delightful guy to talk to. There's Cris Carter shaking his head. Hey, I can't shake this young guy.
And here's Greg Davis, who missed 2 field goals last week. This a 25-yard attempt. And the Vikings are on the scoreboard. 3-0 lead over the Buccaneers with just under 2 minutes remaining. First quarter. Forget tonight, Fox has a...
It's a great action movie, but even if you don't, it's just a great movie. Now here they are again on this deceptive fake onside kick. They're doing this because Greg Davis has had problems with the depth of his kickoff.
And as I mentioned earlier, as Dunn crosses the 30, Davis is not the usual kickoff man. Mitch Berger, the punter, coming back from a hip injury. So once again, we saw Walsh fake the onside kick. And then Davis.
Yeah, Davis is the 9-iron. And Berger, even though he's a punter, is the 3-iron. So you don't want to try to have to kick off with a 9-iron. What the Vikings are doing to compensate is they're giving that onside formation. They're forcing Tampa Bay to shift all their players to one side of the field, and then Davis is just kicking that ball off to the side of the field where there are no Tampa Bay players. That's what you do when you got to take a long shot with a 9-iron.
Trent Dilfer, quite a golfer himself. And Dilfer's pass complete as Riddell Anthony makes the catch. He was wrapped up by Dwayne Washington after a short gain.
That's what Trent Dilfer needs to do. He needs to do what Cris Carter is doing, because as we said at the beginning of the game, both defenses are going to focus on the other team's running backs. They're going to bring their safety up into the run game. It's going to isolate their cornerbacks, and both quarterbacks need to complete those short outside passes to their receivers.
On 2nd and 2, Dunn up the middle.
That's nice run defense. You have to understand this about the Minnesota Vikings run defense. They've been maligned because last week in Chicago, they gave up a lot of yards, but most of those yards were on one running play by Raymond Harris that went for over 60 yards. But for that, Coach Facio says, hey, our run defense really isn't that bad. It's just that sometimes some guy makes a mental mistake. We're aggressive. We're up at the line of scrimmage. They break the seam, and we give up the big one.
4 wide receivers for the Bucs on 3rd and 2. The quick slant, and the catch is made by the tight end, Jackie Harris, who did not have any balls thrown his way last week. He picks up 5 and a Buccaneers first down.
That is poise by Trent Dilfer. Tony Dungy has to love when this young guy shows the poise. Watch the heat come immediately off the corner. Right there, right in Dilfer's face. He stays in there, he hangs in there, and he delivers that ball to Jackie Harris for the first down. That is poise.
And that will do it for the first quarter from the Metrodome in Minneapolis, with Trent Dilfer and the Buccaneers trailing the Vikings. Thanks to Minneapolis, where the Vikings lead the Buccaneers by the score of 3-0 at the 25-yard field goal by Greg Davis, set up by the long pass play from Johnson to Reed.
Well, that's right. So far, both defenses have done a nice job of limiting the other team's running game. Brad Johnson, though, has won out in this passing game so far, but Trent Dilfer is starting to establish his poise.
And Dilfer hits Horace Copeland, who fumbles the football, but it looks as if he was ruled out of bounds by the side judge, Tom Finken.
No, I think they're ruling it a catch and then a fumble out of bounds. They're giving Copeland the catch, and then the fumble. The ball went out of bounds before the Vikings could recover it.
Completed pass. Ball was fumbled forward, out of bounds. The ball belongs to Tampa Bay, first down.
Yes, the side judge, Tom Finken, was right there. Made the call following the 49-yard gain from Dilfer to Copeland.
You talk about poise. Watch him hang in there. There's a little bit of rush coming from behind. Look at that ball. There's another nice long ball. Look at the spin on it. It's a perfect spiral. There's the catch, and there's that ball right there. Bounces out of bounds. The ref was right on it. It was an excellent call.
Dunn bounced it outside. Good second effort down to the 5.
Well, we talked about each defense limiting the other team's run game. Before that run there, Warrick Dunn had 5 carries, only 1 of which went for over 1 yard. So the Minnesota Vikings defense doing a nice job of limiting this quick, savvy player. No, is he savvy? Would you say savvy? He's savvy. It's an amoeba. Yeah. I don't know if an amoeba is savvy. I guess if you had a savvy amoeba, you wouldn't need a shot.
Tell. Second and goal. Play action to Dunn. Dilfer looking end zone. Touchdown. Jackie Harris.
That's just a total mental breakdown on the part of the Vikings defense. Those are the things that Coach Fazio said gave him nightmares at night. It's the mental breakdowns that have hurt this defense more than anything. Here's Jackie Harris right here. He sneaks through the line of scrimmage, and no one is covering him. I think Robert Griffith right there realized that he had coverage, but it was too late. That's a mental breakdown.
Michael Husted about to attempt the point after. Third touchdown pass of the season for Dilfer. He has not yet been picked off. And the Buccaneers take the lead. A flag thrown. Flag thrown by the referee, Dick Antak. And it is holding Tampa Bay.
Usually when it's holding, it occurs on the wing. That's a lonely position out there on the wing. I used to play that in field goal formations. You have to block the inside guy with your inside hand, and then you have to stretch out the outside guy.
Offense, number 83. 10-yard penalty, retry.
Dave Moore, did you hold?
Oh, yeah, I held all the time. It's just a matter of whether you're going to get called or not.
You're holding me here in the booth.
I mean, Dave Moore, it's almost what he has to do. You're going to see where he is in the formation. You're going to see that he's right there on the wing. You see that? I mean, he has to defend this space here and this space here. There's always two guys coming, and he's got to get both of them. See these two guys here? He's got to block one with his inside arm, one with his outside. In, out.
Now, this is the equivalent of a 30-yard field goal, and Husted hits. So the Buccaneers lead the Vikings by the score of 7-3. Inside the Metrodome in Minneapolis, Buccaneers over the Vikings, 7-3. 5-yard touchdown pass, Trent Dilfer to the tight end, Jackie Harris. And there's David Palmer back deep to receive the Michael Husted kickoff. There's Palmer from the 9. Palmer cuts to the outside, across the 30, finally forced out of bounds by the kicker, Husted.
Boy, Husted made a nice tackle. It reminded me, I had a teammate, Scott Case, from the Atlanta Falcons. And that's how Case used to tackle guys. He used to tackle them that way to intimidate them. Watch Husted. Now, it's a short kickoff, so the onus is on Husted to make this play. But watch how he does it. He goes up high on Palmer. Look at this tackle. He's a headhunter. Look at that. Palmer tries to stiff arm him, and Husted says, I'm taking none of that. I'm going right for your head, buddy. That's a pretty good tackle for a kicker. But Palmer got him ticked off.
25 yards on the return by Palmer. Robert Smith. Oh, and he's upended as he crosses the 40-yard line.
How about Roberts? Anytime Robert Smith goes down like that, everyone in this place and all his teammates and even Robert Smith himself are thinking, oh my gosh, is it going to happen again? Because here's a guy who has had every season so far abruptly ended because of an injury.
Although, as he pointed out to us yesterday, his major knee injuries have suffered out of bounds. Way into play. What a catch by Carter, who stepped up the ladder. First down as indicated by Cris Carter in Bucs territory.
They're going to keep going to Cris Carter and Jake Reed. Why? Because they can. Because Brad Johnson has an outstanding arm. He's got a strong arm. He has confidence in these guys, and even when they're covered. They're covered. Cris Carter's covered. He's got a guy underneath him, a guy over the top of him. Johnson can deliver the ball. Carter can catch it. It's not often a team says, hey, our bread and butter is our wide receivers, but that's the case with the Vikings.
Gain of 12, Smith caught in the backfield by John Lynch.
You talk about 8 men up. Now, this is the 8th man. Right here, John Lynch is the strong safety for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's the guy that can either be the swing guy and either come up and get involved in the run, as he is here, making the tackle in the backfield, or he can drop back and help this man, Melvin Johnson, the free safety, back deep in the passing game.
caught Smith for a loss of 5.
Now he's back deep. Now you're not going to see Lynch in the picture. Back deep in coverage.
Second down and 15. Play action as Johnson hits the tight end Greg DeLong for the 45, a gain of 3. And right now for this McDonald's game break, let's head to James Brown at the Fox Television Center.
Kenny, take a look. Scott Mitchell on the look, finds Johnny Morton wide open, 16-yard touchdown pass. Seesaw affair taking place at Soldier Field. Lions on top, 10-7. Take it back to Kenny Albert and Tim Green.
NFC Central battle in Chicago. NFC Central battle here in Minnesota. Buccaneers leading at 7-3 on the touchdown pass from Dilfer to Jackie Harris. 25-yard Greg Davis field goal accounting for the Vikings points. Third down and 8. Johnson over the top. This time Carter could not hang on.
That's when Cris Carter does not normally drop. And that hurts the Vikings because, as I said, they rely on Cris Carter. They rely on him to make everything. He's not allowed to be human. He's got to come down here, come into traffic, and make this catch. They rely on him to do it every time, all the time, even though the pass is high. I mean, Brad Johnson has no hesitation with throwing a pass that's a little high because most receivers might say, oh, we can't get it. Cris Carter is expected to make the hard ones every play.
Pittsburgher angles it out of bounds. So the Buccaneers will start from their own 15-yard line following the 30-yard punt by Berger.
We saw some pewter faces, some black and pewter Tampa Bay faces earlier, too.
The newest color in the NFL, pewter. And the Buccaneers go to work. Fullback Mike Alstott. And he was wrapped up by Derek Alexander.
You ask, what does it mean to say we're a fast, aggressive defense? This is a fast, aggressive defense. When you have guys shooting gaps, you have linebackers coming up. You see that? Did you see Derek Alexander? He just came immediately to the inside. They're playing defense on the move. That's what you do when you're a little smaller than other teams, but you have outstanding speed and quickness. And that's what these guys have in here. Speed and quickness, if not size.
Second and 10, 2 tight ends, and the handoff goes to Alstott, bursts his way up the middle for a gain of 8.
On the other hand, if you're playing an aggressive defense and guys are hitting holes, sometimes you leave a gap, and that's what happens on this play. They drop back, they make it look like a pass. Watch these linemen set up. They're telling the defensive lineman, hey, this is a pass play. Now the Vikings have committed themselves. They've rushed, started to hit their pass lanes. And watch the hole open up for Mike Alstott. Right there. Nice hole. He comes up through, and he is a heavy leg man.
Third down and 1. High formation. On the end around, this is Riddell Anthony. Dilfer faked the handoff to Warrick Dunn. Anthony to midfield. A gain of 26 yards before he was finally run out by Orlando Thomas.
That was a critical breakdown by Dwayne Washington, the cornerback for the Minnesota Vikings. Critical because every defensive player knows from 8 years old on that when a reverse comes at you, you keep it inside. That is a flat rule. You must force Anthony back to the inside. Watch Dwayne Washington right there. He lets him get that corner, and that enables Riddell Anthony to pick up 17, 18, almost 20 more yards than he should have had.
Anthony, the first-round draft pick out of Florida, his first carry in the NFL. So on 3rd and 1, Anthony gains 26. Play action, and Dilfer connects with Rob Thomas, the 9-year veteran, and another Buccaneers first down.
Now, I like that move. I like going right at a guy who just made a basic mistake. And that's what Tampa Bay did on that play right there. Because Dwayne Washington, believe me, was thinking, boy, am I going to get ripped for not keeping that reverse inside. So what do? You throw the ball right at it. Right at it. And you make the completion, you pick up another first down. That's a mind game.
On first down, this is Dunn. Stays on his feet and picks up an extra 3 or 4 yards.
Yeah, he does. I mean, you talk about it. It's slippery. It's getting yourself through a hole, and the guy is so quick. Now, the thing that Tony Dungy is concerned with is, can this guy hold up? He's only 5'7", 178 pounds. Can he hold up under the tremendous pounding that you take in the National Football League? Now, Barry Sanders is the same height, 5'8", but Barry Sanders has about 25 pounds on Warrick Dunn. You worry about if his body can hold up under those hits.
Here's Alstott on 2nd and 3. Has the first down and more. To the Vikings, 21.
You have to really like Mike Alstott as a runner, because while he plays the game as a fullback in the fullback position, watch the move he puts on someone at the line of scrimmage. Look at that move. He makes a cut like a running back, and then he's got the head to put it down and the strength to bull for a couple extra after the initial hit. He's a complete runner, and normally you don't get that in a fullback as big as Mike Alstott.
First and 10 for the Buccaneers. Flags thrown.
We put the Milwaukee on Alstott because I know he was one of the guys who leaned. I don't know if he'll be the guy that's...
False start. Offense. Number 83 prior to the snap. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
Well, it's Dave Moore again. His second penalty this afternoon.
Well, the first one was a holding on that PAT, and that doesn't count. Remember, I told you that. You're allowed to do that. You'll see the flinch here, but watch Alstott here as well. Alstott leans. You see Alstott with the lean? He came forward, too. If they hadn't called Dave Moore, they would have called Mike Alstott.
So it pushes the Buccaneers back 5 yards. First and 15 on the Vikings 27. Tampa Bay leading 7-3. Dilfer dumps it off to Alstott, who caught 65 balls a year ago, second among all NFL running backs, behind only Larry Centers of the Cardinals.
That was a nice reaction by Jason Fisk. He's a guy who gets a lot of criticism because he's not Henry Thomas. Well, most guys aren't Henry Thomas. Fisk is a guy who gets in there, he slogs it out. He's not unlike Brad Culpepper for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, but he made a nice play on that play right there. He broke up that screen. He reacted well to it. And shut the whole thing down by himself.
Dilfer has completed his last 6, make it 7 pass attempts. Alstott again inside the 20.
There's an example of Alstott being a complete runner, because they can't use him as a receiver. They can use him as a blocker, and they can use him just as a straight running back. Now, the weakest link in Alstott's chain is his ability to block. He's got the size, he's got the strength, he has the tenacity, but that is his weakness. And as the game goes on, his ability to block goes down because he spends so much of his energy being a receiver and a running back.
There's Dilfer on 3rd and 6. Steps up, fires, complete, first down. Rob Thomas inside the Vikings 5.
Did you see that protection? That is a great gift to a developing quarterback, that kind of protection. And then Rob Thomas, people don't know. I mean, if you looked at his numbers, you'd say he doesn't even belong in the league. But look at the protection here. The Tampa Bay offensive line does an outstanding job of giving Dilfer time. And then watch Rob Thomas. Look at him right here. He's a crafty guy. He's not fast, although Dilfer says he's got some speed. He's not big. He's not particularly strong, but the guy's crafty. He reads the defense. He's smart. He finds the opening hole, and he sat down in the open zone.
On 1st and goal, Buccaneers keep it on the ground, and a 2-yard pickup for Warrick Dunn. Tremendous first half numbers, Tim, so far for Trent Dilfer. 11 of 13, and he has completed his last 8 pass attempts.
And we talked about the quarterbacks having to step up in this game, and we talked about how Brad Johnson really had the advantage over Trent Dilfer because he has more experienced, stronger wide receivers, a stronger passing game, a more high-powered offense, but Dilfer has certainly raised himself to the challenge today.
2nd and goal upcoming from the 1, and Dilfer calls timeout.
And although Brad Johnson has played very well, Trent Dilfer has played even better.
Buccaneers with 3 tight ends. Harris in motion. Dilfer faked the handoff to Alstott. And he took a hit from Corey Fuller coming up from the left corner. So it will be 3rd and goal.
Well, they weren't going to get this Minnesota defense again. They got him on the last touchdown pass to Dilfer. They were able to sneak Jackie Harris out. But they should have given Foge Fazio more credit than that. And the credit is that Foge is going to get there on the sideline and make sure that everyone knows who they've got. You've got the tight end, you've got the runner, everyone must cover someone in the red zone.
3rd and goal from the 1. Harris again in motion. Here's Alstott, looks to go over the pile, and he is, let's see.
Oh my gosh!
He forces his way in.
Wow, what a highlight play. That was incredible. Watch him. It's great defense. Alstott is completely stopped, but he never gets on the ground, so he keeps going. There's never a whistle. He keeps going. Look at that. He runs in backward.
He escaped Brady, and then with Griffith,
that's just
with Robert Griffith climbing up his back, as you mentioned, he leans backwards into the end zone.
That's great football. That's just a guy hungry for the end zone.
Unsportsmanlike on number 27. Took his helmet off after the play was concluded. By rule, that is an unsportsmanlike foul that will be penalized on the kickoff.
That was Corey Fuller, the new rule this year. Took off his helmet.
Right, and Corey Fuller has had problems and things like that. He's a guy who on the field says, even he admits that he trash talks guys. A couple of years ago, he spit at Trent Dilfer. There was that incident. So he needs to keep his calm. He needs to keep his cool. And he needs to realize that all that happened in that play was Mike Alstott just played great football.
Houston on the point after. And the Buccaneers have extended their lead to 14-3 over the Vikings. Vikings have won 10 consecutive home openers. They began the season with 2 wins on the road, but they find themselves behind 14-3 at the hands of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 12-play, 85-yard drive, and the key play, that 26-yard end around, the handoff on 3rd down to Adele Anthony.
Yeah, where Dwayne Washington let Anthony sneak outside, turning back into the rest of the defense, turned into a 26-yard play. And then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wisely went right after Dwayne Washington on the next play with a pass to Rob Thomas.
Now remember, nobody outside the Vikings organization knows the Minnesota defense and their personnel better than Tampa Bay head coach Tony Dungy.
And that's obvious with the way the Tampa Bay offensive line has given Trent Dilfer plenty of time to throw the football.
And Houston kicks off from the 45 following that unsportsmanlike penalty on Fuller for removing his helmet. So Palmer goes down to one knee in the end zone. Vikings will start from their own 20-yard line. And Tim, our Aflac trivia question for this afternoon. Who was Tony Dungy's special teams coach with the San Francisco 49ers back in 1979?
Now, you might say to yourself, well, I mean, what an obscure question, but when you hear the answer, it's a fun question. You'll understand why Kenny asked it.
So you do know the answer.
I know it. It's a fun one.
There's Johnson on 1st down. And an 8-yard reception by the fullback, Charles Evans. Derrick Brooks made the stop. So once again, our Aflac trivia question. Who was Tony Dungy's special teams coach with the 49ers back in 1979?
Right, now Tony Dungy was a player. Dennis Green was the coach. That's where these two guys first ran into each other.
Second down and 2. Johnson's pass complete over the top to Robert Smith for a Vikings first down.
Nice decision by Brad Johnson to go away from his wide receivers and pick up that first down. We want to look at that answer. I don't want to just hear about the answer. I want to look at it. So here's the 49ers back in 1979. There's Tony Dungy there. There's Dennis Green up there. Player and coach relationship. And then, as we said in the open, Dennis Green got the head job here in Minnesota, brought Tony Dungy here to be his defensive coordinator. Someone's down on the field. I better not say who I think it is. It's Rufus Porter, but
Rufus Porter, the former Seahawk, former Saint.
And that's a sign of pain there when your legs are moving around like that. Here's Porter right here, the outside linebacker.
And ironically, the injury takes place to him on a play involving Robert Smith, who you mentioned earlier has been injury-prone throughout his National Football League career. Porter made the stop on Smith and remains down.
Outstanding job of selecting players. They picked up some young defenders, Reagan Upshaw, Marcus Jones last year. They picked up Mike Alstott, who we've seen what an outstanding player he is, and we've seen how well he runs and the determination with which he seeks the goal line.
And in the draft this year, they went for the offense with Warrick Dunn and Riddell Anthony in the first round.
And those guys have made the Tampa Bay Buccaneers better instantly. So Tony Dungy, and I think that in business, a 10-year plan is no big deal. So when I came here and said, give me 6 years, a 6-year plan, well, a lot of owners want instant success. Malcolm Glazer was perfectly willing to let me implement a plan and to build a winner and give me 6 years to do it. And that's why Tony Dungy has been able to stick with Trent Dilfer, draft Warrick Dunn, play him right away, play young guys on offense and on defense. Tampa Bay is going to be not only a good team this year, but for many years to come.
First down for the Vikings from the 33-yard line as Johnson hits Reed out at the 48, a gain of 15 yards, fourth reception of the day by Reed.
I mean, the coverage is there again. Here's Anthony Parker here. He plays off Reed, but he makes a nice break when the ball is thrown. You see it right there? He's right there. He's right there. It's about as good a coverage as you can get. But again, Brad Johnson, to Reed and to Carter, they have great confidence and they have great chemistry.
On the delay, this is Smith, wrapped up again by John Lynch, moving up from that strong safety spot.
Yeah, that's that 8-man front. Whenever you see John Lynch up there, and we've seen him many times today making tackles in the Vikings backfield or at the line of scrimmage, it's because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are moving him up. They're playing against the run.
John Lynch's head coach in college, Dennis Green. Vikings led after one quarter, but the Buccaneers, with 2 touchdowns here in the second quarter, have gone on top 14-3.
Porter with a sprained shoulder may or may not be back on offense with the Vikings. This is where Brad Johnson is at his best, in a 2-minute drill throwing to his wide receivers.
And here's Johnson, and he is taken down. Reagan Upshaw, the first man in, along with Tyoka Jackson, a loss of 7.
That's the first time we've seen the Tampa Bay defense affect Brad Johnson with the pass rush. Here's Tyoka Jackson. He comes right over the top of Scott Dill. Right there. The move, he comes in clean. Actually, it's Sapp. Sapp's the guy who comes in and forces Johnson to scramble into his teammates. That was something Terry Bradshaw told us about in the pregame. He said they're going to move Warren Sapp over Scott Dill, a journeyman offensive tackle, to try to take advantage of that mismatch.
Johnson airing it out, and the Vikings still have not successfully gained a first down on a third down play. They're 0 for 4 today.
Yeah, and Trent Dilfer with Tampa Bay is 5 for 7. So Dilfer is winning the third down battle, and that's really the difference in this game. But again, it was that Warren Sapp mismatch on Scott Dill that forced them into another known passing situation in third down. Tampa Bay's defense rose to the occasion.
Scott Dill, a former Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Here's Warrick Dunn. Dunn to the outside. And he is finally tripped up by the punter, Mitch Berger.
Kickers are making a lot of tackles today. Berger's got that sore hip, and there you see it. That may have been the end for him, laying out to make this tackle. But it's a good thing he does it because, again, anytime Warrick Dunn gets the ball in his hands, look at this change of direction. This is why people say, hey, he's like Barry Sanders. Not as big as Barry Sanders, but like him. There's Berger. When Berger adjusts and lays out back to the inside to make that tackle, I think he strained his hip again.
He has missed the last 5 games, including preseason. So Randall Cunningham did the punting.
Yeah, and so it looks like we're going to see Randall Cunningham again, because Berger looks like he's put himself out of this one.
26 yards on the return by Warrick Dunn. A minute and 13 remaining. Buccaneers do have 2 timeouts. Here's Dunn spinning up the middle to the 38, a gain of 4. And coming up on the Dockers Khakis halftime report, we'll bring you scores and highlights from around the National Football League. And our Fox Sports ticker will have up to the second stats. That's all coming up on the Dockers halftime. And there is Randall Cunningham, who is the backup here in Minnesota to Brad Johnson this season after taking last year off. And as we mentioned, Cunningham has handled the punting choice. Second and 6. Here's Dunn up the middle once again.
Well, as Tampa Bay runs the clock out here,
he keeps on going.
Yeah, he doesn't think he was down, but the whistle blew down. And you know what? He's so low to the ground. He may not have. Maybe his knee didn't touch, and they just thought he was down.
So the Buccaneers have run out the clock in this first half. 5-yard touchdown pass from Trent Dilfer to Jackie Harris. And a 1-yard TD run by Mike Alstott. And the Buccaneers lead the Vikings at halftime by the score of 14-3.
Vikings are 0 for 4 in third down conversions. Trent Dilfer, on the other hand, passing effectively and efficiently. They're 5 for 7 on third down conversions, and this has led to this. A huge disparity in the time of possession. Remember, this represents the amount of time that the Vikings defense has been on the field. That is not what Dennis Green built his defense to do. I said they are the Greyhound defense. They're lean, they're fast, they're built to be on the field, to cause havoc, to create disruption in the other team, and then get off, get some Gatorade, get their breath on the bench. So far, that defense has been worn down. They've spent much too much time on the field. A lot of the reason is because this young man here, Trent Dilfer, has been absolutely outstanding. And then again, there's always a reason for a reason. The reason for his poise, his offensive line has given him protection. We haven't called John Randall's name one time today. Randall is an outstanding force in the National Football League. Make no mistake about it. Tampa Bay making sure that they double-team Randall to keep him out of the quarterback's face.
Second half underway. Short kickoff by Husted. And David Palmer let it bounce in front of him and then had to dive to keep the Buccaneers away. Very quiet crowd here at the Metrodome. The club won their first 2 games on the road, trailing here 14-3. So now Brad Johnson and the Vikings offense back to work. Johnson turned 29 years of age yesterday, 7-3 as a starter in the NFL.
And I read some, can you believe Brad Johnson in college joined the Andy Griffith Show fan club? So you talk about a wholesome guy. But he's in college and everybody's out partying. Brad Johnson's washing his car, watching Mayberry RFD.
That's what happens when you grow up in Black Mountain, North Carolina. Johnson over the top. Robert Smith to the 23, a gain of 5. Jeff Gooch, who has replaced the injured Rufus Porter, made the stop.
I think what you'll see the Minnesota Vikings do is keep their poise, keep their composure. I think the offensive coordinator, Brian Billick, is going to use a mixture of run and pass because he believes in his guys. He believes that Brad Johnson, with the weapons that he has, can work his way down the field and score.
Second down and 4 as Johnson airs it out, and he overthrows the intended receiver, Cris Carter.
That's a miscue between Johnson and Carter, and it's something that you would expect from a lot of quarterbacks who are only in the 11th game as a starter in their career. But you have to remember about Brad Johnson. he has been with this organization, with this offense, with Brian Billick as his coordinator, Dennis Green as his coach, for 6 years. He studied under Warren Moon, and he's very prepared, so you expect better timing than we saw on that last play.
On 3rd down and 4.
And that's a mixture. And that you can't mix it up any more than that. You can't catch the defense any more unawares than that than running a quarterback sneak on 3rd down and 4. Brad Johnson went to the line. He saw that the Tampa Bay defense was spread out to defend the pass. He gave that to Jeff Christie, his center, a little tap underneath his bottom, and away he went.
That is the first 3rd down conversion this afternoon by the Vikings. Johnson swings it out to the fullback, Charles Evans, and he was upended by the left corner, Donnie Abraham.
Speaking with Brian Billick yesterday, he said, people wonder sometimes, if I have Robert Smith, why would I put the ball in the hands of Charles Evans, a fullback? Or if I have Cris Carter and Jake Reed, why would I throw the ball to one of my tight ends? The reason is you want to play a guessing game with the defense. You want to keep them guessing what you're going to do. So sometimes you have to throw to your weapons that aren't as high powered to keep the defense honest.
Billick said, if I don't do that, I'll get criticized for being too predictable. Johnson looking for Reed. Reed collided with Melvin Johnson out of bounds, so it will be 3rd down.
Some kind of hit Melvin Johnson gave him. Again, this is not good timing. This is not good coordination between Brad Johnson and his receiver. This ball is really uncatchable. It's too far out of bounds. There's no way Jake Reed can catch that thing.
3rd and 8. Vikings with 3 wideouts. They send in Chris Walsh, who caught the game-winning touchdown last week.
This is where Warren Sapp has a big smile on his face.
And here come the Buccaneers, and Derrick Brooks, the 3rd-year man out of Florida State, records the 2nd sack of the day by Tampa Bay.
This is what you love as a defense, a known passing situation. It enables you to take chances. Here's Derrick Brooks coming. There's a safety coming off the corner. There's not enough blockers to pick up this blitz. That's a free one for Derrick Brooks. You love that. I mean, that's just, come free, run as fast as you can, and just nail the quarterback right in the ribs.
And Mitch Berger, who was shaken up earlier, aggravated that hip injury, does punt the ball for the Vikings here in the 2nd half, despite limping off late in the 2nd quarter. 50-yard punt, only a 1-yard return by Dunn. In Minneapolis, Buccaneers take over on their own 28-yard line, leading 14-3. Here's Alstott up the middle. Picks up 1 on the play. Jeff Brady, the former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, made the stop.
Tampa Bay really is in a luxurious position in that they're away from home. They've got an 11-point lead, and they've taken the crowd out of the game. That's exactly what you want to do. That's exactly what they did last week. Tony Dungy's team did the same thing up at Detroit. They took the crowd out of the game and enabled Trent Dilfer to make the calls he wants to make.
Dilfer to the air on 2nd down, and the catch is made by Horace Copeland. Good for a 1st down. Horace Copeland, who missed last season with a left knee injury, picks up 9 and a 1st down.
Again, Kenny, Trent Dilfer able to complete these passes because he has protection. Watch Alstott right there with the block on Jeff Brady. They send Brady on the blitz. Alstott picks him up, gives Dilfer the time to find Horace Copeland. Again, Mike Alstott showing himself as a complete player. He's an amazing guy, a fullback that can run like a halfback, block like a fullback, catch like a tight end.
Dilfer in trouble, and he escapes from Orlando Thomas. Throws downfield.
Oh, my goodness.
What a catch by Riddell Anthony.
Talk about poise. There's poise on Dilfer's part, but there's equal poise on Riddell Anthony's part. It's tough to beat a football team that's playing this well. Watch the blitz come off the corner at the top. It's Orlando Thomas. Look at Dilfer. I told you he has linebacker strength. He just shakes Orlando Thomas like he's not there, and then watch Riddell Anthony. There's good coverage by Dwayne Washington. It's right there. Watch him fight for this ball. Look at that. That's like an acrobat in a circus. That's incredible poise for a rookie wide receiver.
And it's 28 yards. From the Vikings, 33, Warrick Dunn. Up the middle, comes out on the other side.
Now they've got this Minnesota Vikings defense not knowing what in the world is going on. They're throwing the ball even when they send their blitz, even when someone comes clean. And they tried to blitz with Brady. Alstott picked it up. Boach blitzed Orlando Thomas in the next play. Orlando Thomas misses him. He gets shaken by a quarterback and then completes a big one. Now they're running Warrick Dunn right up the middle. They don't know what's coming at them.
Second down and 4. Here's Dunn, cutting to the left side. Short game with 5 minutes gone by in the third quarter, and the Buccaneers leading by 11.
Again, the concern with Warrick Dunn is his size. Can he handle the pounding? And you look at here, he's run the ball out of his 12 carries. 10 of them have been right up the gut, but he hasn't done bad. I mean, 39 yards, 3.9 yards a carry, and we've yet to see him break the big one. That's what Warrick Dunn can do. He may average 3.9, then all of a sudden, he gets into the defensive backfield. He can break one for 50.
3 wide receivers, 3rd and 4. Dilfer into the end zone, touchdown! Horace Copeland, a flag thrown. Corey Fuller on the coverage as Dilfer hits Copeland on 3rd and 4.
It's going to count as a touchdown, and that's going to be pass interference against Corey Fuller. Fuller and Copeland were pushing each other back and forth.
Defense number 27. Penalty is declined. Touchdown.
Well, you talk about poise. Watch Trent Dilfer. There's heat on him again. He gets pressure from Derrick Alexander right there. Look at that. Just as he's hit, he lets go of this ball, and he places it again perfectly. You can't throw it any better than that. You said Horace Copeland's got speed. He's an element that we lacked last year. We have it this year. That's speed. Horace Copeland beats Fuller over the top, and Dilfer finds him in the end zone.
Houston hits the point after. First touchdown for Copeland since the 1995 season. Now 21-3 Tampa Bay. Here's Palmer. Palmer cut down just inside the 20-yard line. Tyrone Leggett made the stop following the 20-yard return.
The encouraging thing about that scoring drive, 6 plays, you see there 72 yards, is that Riddell Anthony again had a key play. He had that key catch when Dilfer beat the blitz, shook off Orlando Thomas. He found Riddell Anthony. Again, this guy here, he's a rookie. He's a rookie who's already showing outstanding production in Tampa Bay's offense. That's why Tampa Bay is going to continue to get better and better.
There's Robert Smith on first down. Big game. Spins across the 30 to the 34. A pickup of 15 yards.
But this is almost what you have to expect, because you have to understand that now Tampa Bay's focus is going to be to shut down the passing game. There's John Lynch, the safety. He's out. He's thinking pass. You see him backing up there. He backs up. Without that extra man in there, that gives Robert Smith some room. And Smith is always dangerous when he has some room through the line of scrimmage. Again, a big guy with deceptive speed.
Here's Smith again. Across the 45, another Vikings first down.
You might say to yourself, we'll just sit back and defend the pass. But with Robert Smith and the kind of weapon that he is, he can make runs that are almost as big as pass plays. I mean, over 10 yards on the last 2 runs alone. You see his average there, but over the last 2, he's been outstanding. It's as good as a pass play.
Change of pace. Leroy Hoare caught in the backfield.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Robert Smith is his intellect. He's known as being a very intellectual guy. I put together a little book on him, some interesting facts. Now, he's a guy who likes military history, military historian. He also enjoys astrophysics, but they seem incongruous when you know that he also never misses The Simpsons. So while he's certainly an intelligent guy, he's also kind of a down-to-earth guy.
Johnson to Reed. And a Vikings first down in Buccaneers territory. 20 yards.
One thing anyone who knows Brad Johnson knows is that he will stay poised. You see it in his face. You see how he's relaxed. He wasn't connecting with Jake Reed or Cris Carter on the last series, but he goes right back to them. And here's Jake Reed right between the coverage. It's a delicate, it's a precision pass Johnson has to throw, and he does it.
Here's Smith. Getting back to Robert Smith. As a big fan of The Simpsons, so are you telling me that his remote is programmed to Fox?
Don't!
Obviously, Tim Green, a big Simpsons fan as well.
Look, players love Fox. I mean, you got Robert Smith, one of the more intellectual guys. He's watching The Simpsons. Warrick Dunn says he watches Martin every night. I know everybody's going to go home tonight and watch True Lies. So, yeah, of course. I mean, it's kind of, Fox in the NFL. It's a great team.
Second down and 7. Ford. Back
the late flea flicker.
Yes, the lead flea flicker. And Cris makes the catch. Ford fakes at the toss back to Johnson. And then as he was bottled up, did in fact toss the ball back to Johnson.
I've never seen anything like that. And we thought it was an unusual play when they faked the onside kick. And you've got Chidi Ahanotu down. You've got a flag down. There's all kinds of things going on.
A fake flea flicker. And it worked.
When I said that Brian Billick, the offensive coordinator for the Vikings, was going to mix it up, I never imagined that.
And with Chidi Ahanotu down on the field, will return to the Metrodome.
But when he started to get tackled, he said, hey, I might as well just toss it to Brad Johnson. He'll know what to do with it. And by gosh, Johnson did.
Good thing Johnson expected it.
I don't think he did expect it. Do you?
He acted as if he did.
I think he's just calm and cool. I don't think he would have expected it. Because you don't do a double fake on a flea flicker.
Following the penalty called on Lynch, here's Smith. Hit for a loss. Loss of a yard. So it will be second and goal.
I think Howie Long talked about this young man here being a force. And here you see him. We saw him earlier cause some disruption on a pass play. Here Warren Sapp causes disruption on this run play. Slows Robert Smith down in the backfield. He's a big man with outstanding quickness. He's playing with that. He dislocated his pinky finger. It broke right through the skin.
Flag's thrown as Johnson looked for Carter.
Yeah, Johnson tried to beat the defense, and I don't think Cris Carter was set.
Illegal shift on the offense. Number 80 wasn't set prior to the snap.
They tried to get the jump on the Tampa Bay defense. Again, it's more improvisation by Brad Johnson. But that's smart. That's what you want to do. If you see the defense isn't set, you try to instantly set your own offense and catch them off guard.
Buccaneers decline the penalty, so that leads to a third down and goal. Third and goal from the 9. Ford in the backfield with Charles Evans. Johnson to Ford, and he's met at the 6 by Anthony Parker, and Ford a bit slow up.
That was a nice tackle by Anthony Parker.
Ford shaken up, heading to the sidelines.
Ford's a big, powerful runner. And so you're willing to throw this short pass short of the first down marker because you believe that Horde can beat Anthony Parker in a one-on-one match, but Parker brings him down and hurts him in the process.
Brick Davis, who hit from 25 earlier, out to attempt a 24-yard field goal. With Mitch Berger holding, the kick is good. But the Buccaneers hold the Vikings to just 3. So Tampa Bay's lead is now 21-6. 21-6 lead for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Our game summary is brought to you by Budweiser.
You see again, both quarterbacks have been efficient, but obviously Dilfer and the Buccaneers with 2 touchdowns have been much better at putting that ball into the end zone. You see the total yards, it's not that far off. You have to remember this, though, about the Minnesota Vikings. They were down at halftime when in week 1 against the Bills. Actually, they had only a 3-point lead against the Bills. They were down last week against the Bears, 10-3. They've scored a tremendous amount of points in the 4th quarter.
Yes, big 4th quarters in both games. As Warrick Dunn is met head-on by Anthony Pryor.
And that's what makes you nervous about a small runner when he gets a hit like that, because how many of those kind of hits can he take? I think Warrick Dunn, with the tremendous confidence that he has, would tell you he can take as many as he can.
Warrick Dunn said, "I think big."
He does think big. You got to think big when you're taking a hit like that from Pryor. I don't know how many of those hits anybody could take.
Buccaneers head to work from their own 18-yard line, leading 21-6. As the quick slant is complete. Catch made by Riddell Anthony for a gain of 6.
Dilfer's beating the blitz again.
Well, Tim, coming up next on our Fox NFL Sunday doubleheader, most of you will see the St. Louis Rams take on the Denver Broncos, plus other regional action. So don't miss more exciting NFL football coming up right here on Fox.
And the Rams are a young team with a potent offense where anything can happen. Although it is certainly tough to go in there and play at Mile High Stadium.
2nd down and 3. Dunn close to the first down. Tackle made by Orlando Thomas.
One of the things Tony Dungy wants to see in his team, he said he wants to see a development of a killer instinct. He's got a lot of young players. We've seen Riddell Anthony, what he's done, Warrick Dunn. Tony Dungy bringing along some young offensive linemen, skill players, sticking with Trent Dilfer. He says when we get ahead, the great teams, and we're not a great team yet, but the great teams have a killer instinct where they just keep hammering, even when they have the lead.
Here's Dunn up the middle. Escaped the first tackle attempt by Robert Griffith.
You see the new colors there by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I know that these colors are successful. It's successful marketing because I was watching tape of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week when my 3-year-old son was there. And he said, "Hey, I want one of those. I want to be one of those guys. I like that." He's 3 and he says, "I like that skull and those swords."
Didn't say that last year?
No, he didn't like that orange.
2nd and 7. Dilfer is nearly picked off by Ed McDaniel. And right now for this McDonald's game break, let's head to James Brown and our Fox Television Center.
Hey, Jenny, I think Tim would agree this is making up for a mistake. Beagles drops the snap there, but makes up for an alert play. Lateral to Chris Gedney. Well, guess what? Washington still got the ball, but an alert play making a bad situation a little better. Back to Kenny Albert and Tim Green.
What high school and college did Chris Gedney attend?
Hey, Liverpool High School, Liverpool, New York, Syracuse University. Two wonderful places.
Following Tim Green. Buccaneers on 3rd down. Dilfer is hit. Wayne Rudd, the first-round draft pick out of Alabama, comes up with his first sack in the National Football League.
That's the big play they needed. Coach Fazio sent Orlando Thomas on this blitz earlier, coming clean off the corner. Dilfer shook him. Dilfer can't shake Wayne Rudd on this play, and it's the big defensive play that this Vikings defense is known for.
And Dilfer fortunate the ball bounced back underneath him. Vikings have already returned 2 fumbles for touchdowns this year. David Palmer from the 26. Across the 30, and it's John Lynch, who has been very active this afternoon, who makes the stop following the 6-yard return. 50-yard punt by Barnhart.
Oh, yeah. That's what a fan does. You put on a hat, but he didn't paint his face.
Well, perhaps they will paint their face down in Florida. When the Mets travel to Florida, take on the Marlins. Fox Saturday Baseball. Coverage begins 1/2 hour before game time within the zone. Check the local listings for the game and time in your area. Johnson swings it out, and the catch is made by Robert Smith, forced out of bounds after a gain of 5.
And what you're going to see now from the Minnesota Vikings offense is composure. You know that they're composed because they had a 75-yard drive on the last series. Dennis Green didn't panic. He didn't say, all right, we've got to go for the touchdown on 4th down. He said, all right, we'll kick a field goal because I know what my offense can do, especially in the 4th quarter. We can afford to run. We can afford to mix in the pass. We can work our way down. We have plenty of time.
2nd and 4 off the fingertips of the tight end, Hunter Goodwin.
That hurts. I mean, Hunter Goodwin is in there because he's a big 280-pound guy. He's an outstanding blocker as a tight end, but you have to do more than that in the National Football League. You have to be able to turn around, and the tough thing is Brad Johnson has such a fast ball that you turn around, you don't get to watch it leave his hand. You turn around, and there it is. You have to have incredibly quick reflexes to catch that ball.
Vikings only 1 for 7 on 3rd down. Make it 2 for 8 as Jake Reed puts through the coverage into Buccaneers territory. And had some words with Warren Sapp.
Yeah, but it's almost pretty to watch how Jake Reed takes that big body and just goes right into the center of the field, right into traffic, stretches out to make a catch. It's a beautiful thing that the Vikings have a guy that big. They've thrown the ball 7 times to him. He's caught 6 of them.
He caught 12 last week. Johnson airing it out, looking for Reed. Out of bounds, picked off out of bounds by the former Viking, Anthony Parker.
Anthony Parker has had a good day today. Even though Jake Reed has caught a number of balls, he hasn't gotten beat deep for the touchdown. We've seen him involved coming up on the run play. He stopped Leroy Horde on that last play. And here he is here. And his instructions, Tony Dungy's instructions to Anthony Parker today were, don't get beat deep. And there you see him staying over the top, between Jake Reed and the goal line, willing to accept that Jake Reed may catch 6 or 7 balls or 10 balls, but we kept him out of the end zone.
2nd down and 10. 3 wide receivers. Johnson chased by Sapp. Throws downfield, and good coverage there by Donnie Abraham. The intended receiver was Cris Carter, and Carter looking for a flag.
And there's a young man, Donnie Abraham, that doesn't care. He doesn't care that Cris Carter is an all-pro and a mainstay in the NFL. Because when the ball goes up, he knows it belongs to him just as much as it belongs to Cris Carter. And again, you see him playing over the top. He gets beat a little bit by Carter, but watch this. See that ball go up? Donnie Abraham doesn't care who it is. He believes it belongs to him. There you see that Brad Johnson has thrown at these guys, and they've done a pretty good job of defending.
Johnson pump fakes on 3rd down. Puts it out to Carter. Has the 1st down. Lost the football, and the Buccaneers have recovered. John Lynch recovers the fumble by Cris Carter.
And that's what happens when you run to the ball all the time. That's what John Lynch does. We saw him up in the line of scrimmage making tackles in the run play. We've seen him making tackles in special teams. And when you run to the ball, good things happen. It's a nice play between Johnson. He dodges the rush. He finds Cris Carter.
Jeff Gooch got a hand in there.
Gooch forces the fumble, and there's John Lynch right there. He's right there because, Lynch is coming to make a tackle. He's coming to hit someone. But whenever you run to the ball, if it pops out, you get a chance for a fumble recovery. If someone misses a tackle, you get a chance to clean up.
Buccaneers back to the offense from their own 35-yard line. Mike Alstott. Well, Brad Johnson called John Lynch the key to the Buccaneers defense. And it was Lynch who recovered Carter's fumble. Carter picked up the first down, a gain of 13, and then he lost the handle. As time winds down in this third quarter, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who won only one road game last year, visited Detroit last week. They were victorious, looking to do it again in Minnesota. 3 quarters complete, 21-6, Tampa Bay. With Tim Green. Tim, what do you look for here in the fourth quarter?
Well, I look for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to try to continue to run out the clock. They've got the lead. Now they need to show that killer instinct that Tony Dungy says his team needs to take it to the next level.
Flags thrown on 2nd and 8 as Dunn is tripped up by Ed McDaniel.
Countering Tampa Bay's trying to control the clock and run it out, you expect the Minnesota Vikings defense to get very aggressive, very risky, and try to create a turnover, try to stop Tampa Bay in their trap.
Offside. Defense number 94. 5-yard penalty. Repeat the down. 2nd down.
Tony Williams, 5th-round draft pick out of Memphis State, the guilty Viking.
Rolling his hands. He rolls his hands. It means something, right? It means something's coming. Like a storm. Try to bring a storm.
On 2nd and 3, Buccaneers keep it on the ground with Alstott about 1.5 yards shy of the first down.
He stormed him. That's exactly what he did when he rolled his hands like that. Meant let's get some kind of aggressive front up there. And you saw the linebackers right at the instant the ball was snapped. The linebackers all shot right to the line of scrimmage. This is a very critical play right here, 3rd down and short. The thing you have to watch out for on 3rd and short is you have to realize that Alstott and Dunn both have the ability to turn a small short yardage play into a big game.
Dilfer fakes the handoff to Dunn, rolling right, keeps it himself, dives across towards the first down marker. And we will wait and see exactly where they spot the ball. And it looks as if Dilfer has enough for the first down.
Dilfer was smart on that. He put that ball, he ran right at the marker, and he saw where he had to go with the ball, and he just put that ball forward. Watch what he does with the ball. Watch the placement. He knows guys are coming. He knows he's going to get hit. Look at how he puts that ball right out there to the marker to pick up the first down. That's savvy. Look at that. That's poise. I mean, he's a young guy in quarterback age, in quarterback years. You know how dog, you say it's 7 years for every one. Well, in quarterback, it's like 1 for every 7. He's been in the league 4 years. That's not old for a quarterback.
And he told us he's found relaxation in football this year for the first time.
Well, he never got along with Sam Weiss. He never liked Weiss. I don't think Sam Weiss liked him. And Trent Dilfer was never happier than when Weiss got canned and Tony Dungy was brought in.
Timing pattern, and the pass was behind the intended receiver, Riddell Anthony.
There's his youth. There's his inexperience and his youngness. He's going to talk to Riddell Anthony right now and tell him the way things should be, the way things should have been.
Well, Anthony has helped set up 2 of the 3 Buccaneer touchdowns. First, the 26-yard end-around run in the second quarter, and the outstanding catch in the third quarter from 28 yards. Dilfer to Anthony.
Again, Trent Dilfer has a luxury today. He's got the lead, and he also has an offensive line that's neutralized John Randall.
Warrick Dunn works his way ahead for 3 yards. Robert Griffith made the stunt.
Now every 3rd down play becomes 3 times as important because the clock is running down. You see Warrick Dunn's numbers there. Again, Warrick Dunn is a kind of running back, as is Robert Smith for the Vikings, that will run for 3 or 4 yards to carry, but all of a sudden he may break a big one. That's what Dennis Green doesn't want to happen. This 3rd down jump.
4 wideouts, and Dilfer keeps it on the ground with Dunn, breaks 2 tackles, cuts to the inside, has the first down. There it is. You called it, Ben. You called it. 52-yard touchdown run.
That's what he does. Now his average has just been doubled in one play. He goes along, but every time he touches the ball, it's dangerous. And those are the breakdowns that have typified this Minnesota Vikings defense even early on. Fernando Smith has him in the backfield. And then look at that. It's just pure speed. He's got it. He's got the moves. He's got the speed. He's a young, quiet, humble young man. Look at that, 6.3. He just doubled his average with one play. He doubled his running average.
And he is also over the 100-yard mark for the second consecutive week. A 52-yard touchdown scamper by Warrick Dunn. Michael Houston adds the extra point. It is now 28-6 Buccaneers. The best thing I do after a long pause, the best thing I do is score touchdowns.
And he's right. He's right. Tony Dungy loved his confidence. But you know what, Kenny? For every great run, there's a great block. There's the lineman, this time Gruber, working on John Randall, one of the best in the business, and look how he seals him out. He seals out John Randall, keeps his hands, and then puts Randall into the turf. That's an outstanding job. It's a great block, and it's a great run.
And Fernando Smith seemed to have Dunn wrapped up at the same time.
Yeah, but that's what Ronnie Lott was talking about in the pregame show. Where he said Warrick Dunn's like an amoeba. I mean, he gets small, and you think you got him, and then squish. You know, he shoots out the side.
12 minutes, 20 seconds remaining. Vikings trailing 28-6. Johnson in trouble, and he is taken down by the combination of Chidi Ahanatu, who sprains his ankle earlier, along with Reagan Upshaw.
And now these guys just get to go to town. The thing that Tony Dungy talked about with Reagan Upshaw was his motor.
Cardinals and Skins at 10. They're already in the fourth period. Oakland now up by 3 in Atlanta. Trying to recover from that heartbreaking loss on Monday night. Lions sizable lead over Chicago.
It's a double-digit sack total means millions of dollars. And who wouldn't want a couple $1 billion?
Johnson sends it out again. This time it's Robert Smith. Hit shy of the 20-yard line by Derrick Brooks. And right now for a McDonald's game break. Let's head back to James Brown at the Fox Television Center.
Kenny and Tim, key play for Detroit here in their touchdown drive. That 18-yard pass play from Scott Mitchell to Herman Moore sets up a 1-yard Tommy Vardell run. It is now 23-7. Take it back. Kenny and Tim.
And you know what Herman Moore reminds me of? It reminds me of how Donnie Abraham, the cornerback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right down here, did an outstanding job against Herman Moore last week, and he's done an outstanding job against Cris Carter this week.
Johnson on 3rd and 7 for Chris Walsh. He makes his second catch of the afternoon and has enough for the Minnesota Vikings first down.
And see, now Brad Johnson is playing against two things. He's playing against the Tampa Bay defense.
Yard rusher. And flags were thrown.
Well, this is cleanup duty for Eric Rett. And this is why, you know,
Illegal
we've got
motion.
Warrick Dunn.
Offense, number 82, moving forward prior to the snap. 5-yard penalty. Repeat the down. First down.
Tight end Patrick Hape.
Yeah, another rookie going off sides. But Eric Rett, what you want to do with him now is you just want to pound the ball out. You got a 22-point lead. Time is running out. You don't want Warrick Dunn. He's already made a spectacular play, that spectacular touchdown run. He's run for 100 yards, a 6.3-yard average. Now when you want to run it out, don't let Warrick Dunn's small body absorb the punishment that Eric Rett is going to take right now.
Rett did not play in the first 2 games. And here's Rett up the middle. Down to the 37. A gain of 7.
Another flag on the play, but you know, you talk about the punishment. Eric Rett is probably thankful to have the punishment. I mean, he's like a man, a dying man in the desert, and you're giving him a cup of water. And that's how awful it feels when he was a star. He was the
Man on the right. 5-yard face mask. Defense number 20, 5-yard. Repeat the down. First down.
Dwayne Washington with the face mask penalty. But Eric Rett, you know, and then he had that holdout. And then his career has just gone downhill from there. Now, the most difficult thing about that is for Eric Rett, now he has to wonder, did I do the right thing by holding out, by trying to get another contract? I listened to my agent. My agent thought it was best for me. I thought it was best for me. If he keeps believing in himself and he can revitalize his NFL career, everything will be fine. If he doesn't, he's always going to look back to that holdout, and he'll never forget it for the rest of his life.
Here's Rett once again. Rett over 1,000 yards each of his first 2 seasons prior to the holdout last year. Tampa Bay coming into this game over the last 2 seasons have won 7 of their last 9. Their best 9-game stretch in team history, and only Carolina and Jacksonville have done better.
Yeah, look at the company. The Carolina Panthers and Jacksonville Jaguars. You got the Packers and the Patriots, the 2 Super Bowl teams, and then you got these powerhouses, Denver and Dallas. And Tampa Bay is right there in the midst of them over the last 9 games.
2nd and 3, Rett close to first down yardage. Orlando Thomas made the stop. Well, a victory here today, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will sit atop the NFC after 3 weeks.
Yeah, and the 2 friends, Tony Dungy and Dennis Green, his mentor. It's just it's a nice story. You knew it was going to be a nice story no matter who won this football game. And both coaches said yesterday, it's going to come down to the players. It's going to come down to guys making plays. For Tampa Bay, it came down to Trent Dilfer's poise, the protection his offensive line gave him. Warrick Dunn with a spectacular run to really look to field his victory.
Look down at 1 as Dilfer tried to hand it off to Rett. They miscommunicated on the exchange. So the Buccaneers force back.
Well, despite the fact that this is a bit of a botched play here, Dilfer fumbling the ball, he has really played very, very well.
Flag is down, and Evans is tackled at the 25. They're saying that... Palmer lets it go, and it bounces into the end zone. 38 yards on the punt. Kenneth Gant could not keep it in the field of play. Will return to Minneapolis in a moment. No question what network we're talking about. Johnson rolling right, hits Carter, and then Abraham hits Carter as well. Jeff Gooch finally came together with Johnson after his 10-yard gain.
If they get a score here, then we'll get to see the onside kick by the Vikings for real.
We almost saw it on the opening kickoff.
We saw a couple fake onside kicks. This time we'll get to see the real thing if they can put it in. It's Orlando Thomas again shaken on that blitz by Trent Dilfer. Dilfer just shoved him off. He completed the big pass play.
First down from the 33-yard line. Johnson took a hit once again. Warren Sapp said hello to Brad Johnson.
Whereas the Vikings defense really wasn't able to get much of a rush at all on Trent Dilfer.
On 2nd and 10, Johnson dumps it off, this time for Robert Smith, forced out of bounds. Somebody lost their helmet. Derrick Brooks.
Now he's talking to Robert Smith and Scott Dill. He's a little embarrassed that he lost that thing. He wants to make them think that it's not them. It's not you that knocked my helmet off. I just lost it. Here's the hit. Really was Robert Smith's elbow. Jarred Derrick Brooks' head right back.
3rd down and 9. Johnson over the top. Chris Walsh, the intended receiver, took Rett, who has replaced Warrick Dunn. 2nd consecutive 100-yard game for Dunn, including his 52-yard touchdown run here in the 4th quarter.
And they're looking at Warrick Dunn's hand. Again, it's the pounding that you have to watch out for with a player like that, because he is so talented. You want to use him, but you don't want to use him all the time because he's going to take some hits. I mean, you all take hits in the National Football League. When you're a runner, you've got a bullseye on your back. Everyone's taking a shot at you. When you're only 178 pounds, it's tough to hold up.
Here's Eric Red again. Robert Griffith made the stop. Well, another outstanding afternoon for Trent Dilfer. He's completed 15 of 20 for 192 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, including today's game, you assume that the Buccaneers will hold on with under 3 minutes left. Over the last 2 years, there you see in the 9 Buccaneer wins, the touchdown to interception ratio as opposed to the 10 losses.
Yeah, 13 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in the wins. Almost the opposite. 3 touchdowns, 17 interceptions in the losses. And again, if you looked at that, you would see that it was heavy interceptions early in the season last year. But Tony Dungy believed in Trent Dilfer, as he believed in a lot of his young players, and said, 3-0 on top of the Central Division, the only unbeaten team in the National Football Conference.
And we hit the 2-minute warning in Minneapolis. The Bucs will make it 3-0.
Man, with the taped up finger that he busted up last week, and then here's what it is to be a loser in the National Football League. Malaise on the other side of the field.
The Vikings franchise have not lost a home opener since 1986 to the Lions. They had won 10 straight, while the Buccaneers last year only 1 road victory under Tony Dungy, but they'll make it 2-0 away from Tampa. As the Vikings call timeout, they stop the clock with 1:53 remaining.
And you always have to ask yourself why. Call a timeout. I guess it's that never say die attitude.
In fact, the only previous time the Buccaneers started a season 3-0 was back in 1979. Jimmy Carter was president. Kramer versus Kramer, best motion picture. Willie Joel, 52nd Street, the top album. And Tim Green, sophomore wrestler / football player at Liverpool High School in upstate New York.
And our spotter, Mark Berrios, wanted you to run this one because that was the last time he beat me in a wrestling match.
He had 2 years on it.
I know, and once I got to be a junior, then I started thumping him.
Well, Tony Dungy in 1970. Miami Dolphins coming to town next week.
I like a lot of things about Tony Dungy and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but one of the things I like most is the fact that they're not making too much out of the fact that they started 2-0 and now they're 3-0. If you ask them, they will tell you, we're a good team, but we're not a great team. And with that attitude, they'll become a great team because every week they want to work to get better. And that's the only way you go from good to great.
Johnson to Charles Evans. And the Vikings call their final timeout. Well, no, Johnson looked like he wanted the timeout, but the clock continues to run. Here's Evans again. At the first down. At the 47-yard line with 1:10 on the clock. So the Vikings in a hurry-up offense, trailing 28-6. They led 3-0 on the 25-yard Greg Davis first quarter field goal, but the Buccaneers would score 3 consecutive touchdown run, and then in this fourth quarter, a 52-yard TD run by Warrick Dunn.
Again, Trent Dilfer showing poise, putting up good numbers today. Riedel Anthony, the rookie wide receiver for Tampa Bay. Warrick Dunn with ice on his thumb or something there. Big bag of ice.
Almost bigger than him.
It wouldn't take much to be bigger than him, but it'd take a lot to play bigger than him.
The reigning NFC Offensive Player of the Week will certainly receive some votes again this week. As Charles Evans is forced out of bounds at the Buccaneers 31. And the crowd comes to life with 43 seconds to go. Too little, too late for the Vikings.
And when you talk about the crowd, Trent Dilfer was concerned with the crowd. and concerned with the noise. He said it disturbed him the last 2 times he was here. It affected his poise. It affected his judgment. He was determined today to come in here, not let it affect him, and to operate an offense with an efficiency that would take the crowd out of it. Because once you get up, and once you continue to score and move the ball around on the home team, it does. The crowd flattens out.
Johnson looking, end zone for Potter, touchdown.
Reggie Rusk, who had the coverage, wants a flag because Cris Carter used that classic Cris Carter move where he pushes off at the last second. We saw him do it earlier to Donnie Abraham. But the ref will allow that. They'll allow a little bit of hand back and forth, a hand battle, because the charge to the officials is, well, we want you to call flagrant pass interference. We also want you to let these guys play. It is a game of football, and contact has its place.
And the Vikings will go for 2. Buccaneers call timeout. 28-12 lead for Tony Dungy's Buccaneers. Coming up on our NASDAQ stock market post-game report, we'll take you around the National Football League, scores and highlights, plus the Fox Sports ticker up to the second stats from this afternoon's games. And stats from this game, Tim, for what it's worth, in a losing effort, Brad Johnson with his feet
knows that he's got a quarterback in Brad Johnson. He knows he's efficient. He knows he'll keep his composure. But his offense, while they were able to move the ball around the field, really weren't able to find the end zone. Obviously, that's part of it. That's a big part of the game, right? Usually the team that finds the end zone